There is a day that seems ordinary, but is anything but, a day where destinies turn and hearts are weighed, a day when a guest came to speak, not just any guest, a holy guest, a guest we invited, but didn't want. A guest who came to speak life, but was met with silence, then violence, and on that day, my friends, we stabbed the guest speaker. Yes, it happened, not with steel or blade, but with our pride, our pretense, our resistance to truth. We killed the message because we hated the mirror, and in doing so, we betrayed the very voice that came to save us. But out of this tragic day comes revelation, and from revelation transformation. The guest is truth. He doesn't arrive with applause. He doesn't come dressed in the robes of comfort or the garments of flattery. No, he comes in simplicity, often unnoticed at first, but his presence carries weight, an undeniable pull that disrupts the ordinary and exposes what's been hidden. Truth walks into the room, and suddenly everything changes. He doesn't force his way in. He waits to be invited. But once you let him cross the threshold, he does not come to sit politely and nod at your illusions. He comes to confront, to challenge, to cleanse, because truth cannot coexist with lies. And he loves you too much to let you stay in chains. We call him a guest, but the truth is the house belongs to him. Your life, your breath, your being, it was always his. He is the architect of your soul, the one who knows every broken beam, every cracked foundation, every room you've locked and labeled "do not enter." Yet he still comes, not to condemn you for the mess, but to help you rebuild it with honesty and grace. But here's the tragedy. We often resist the very one we need most, because when truth speaks, he disrupts the stories we've told ourselves. He exposes the narratives we've clung to, the lies that helped us survive but can no longer help us live. He points to the masks we've worn, the walls we've built, the wounds we've hidden, and he says, let's go there. It's uncomfortable. It's inconvenient, because truth doesn't flatter. He frees, and freedom always costs something. Truth says, you're not okay pretending. He says that bitterness is poisoning you. He says your silence is not peace, it's fear. He says you were made for more than this cycle. And though we may smile at him on the outside, many of us are hiding the dagger behind our back, ready to silence him the moment he touches the thing we refuse to surrender. But truth is not fragile. He doesn't retreat at our resistance. He stands, he waits, he loves, because he is not just truth in concept. He is truth as a person, living, breathing, relentless. He speaks not to shame, but to save. He wounds, but only to heal. He shakes, but only to awaken. And here's the wonder. The more we let him speak, the more we come alive. The more we stop pretending, the more he starts rebuilding. The more we stop running, the more we start becoming. And when we finally let go of the fear, the ego, the need to be right, the addiction to image, what we find is not judgment, but mercy, not exposure for the sake of humiliation, but revelation for the sake of restoration, because the guest is truth, and the truth doesn't come to destroy you. He comes to deliver you. But he will not stay in the house where he is only tolerated and not embraced. So when he speaks again, when he enters again, don't resist him. Listen, let the mirror do its work. Let the scalpel cut what needs to die. And then rise, because when you welcome truth, you don't lose control. You gain your soul. And that, my friend, is the beginning of real freedom. Are you ready to stop hiding and let truth in? Why did we stab him? Not because he harmed us, but because he knew us, because he came too close, because he looked past the masks we wear, the smiles we fake, and the roles we play, and spoke to the parts of us we work so hard to keep hidden. He came with words that pierced, words that stripped away the armor, words that demanded a response. We feared him not because he was cruel, but because he was clear. We're not afraid of monsters. We're afraid of mirrors. Afraid of seeing ourselves honestly, and afraid of what might have to change if we did. You see, what we fear the most is often what we need the most. We fear the voice that challenges us because it calls us out of comfort. We fear conviction because it threatens our excuses. We fear the light because we've made peace with the shadows. But don't you see, the fire that burns is the same fire that refines. The sword that wounds is the same sword that heals. And the truth that shakes us is the same truth that saves us. We fear being broken, yet our healing begins the moment we allow it. We avoid the deep questions, we scroll, we numb, we stay busy, because something in us knows that if we slow down long enough to listen, the guest will speak, and when he speaks, something must die. Our pride, our plans, our need to be in control. But hear this, the death of what's false is the beginning of what's real. You are not afraid of failure. You're afraid of becoming everything God knows you are. You're not afraid of losing. You're afraid of letting go of the small to reach for the eternal. You're not afraid of the guest. You're afraid of what he'll ask you to lay down. Yet in the very thing we fear is the very thing we're longing for. We fear the call, but crave the purpose. We fear surrender, but ache for peace. We fear obedience, but hunger for destiny. So maybe it's time we stop running. Maybe it's time we turn and face the fear, and find out it was never our enemy, but our invitation. Because on the other side of what you fear is freedom, is joy, is life, and the guest who still waits, not to punish, but to pour out something far greater than what you're clinging to. What are you still afraid of letting go? The guest returns. That alone is a miracle, because if we were him, we wouldn't have. We would have walked away. We would have said they had their chance. We would have closed the door, shaken the dust from our feet, and left the house to its silence. But not him. He returns, not in anger, but in mercy, not to repay the wound, but to restore the relationship. He returns not because we deserve it, but because he cannot deny who he is. He is the guest who does not leave us to our shame, the one who chooses to revisit the very room where he was rejected, the one who still knocks on the door that slammed in his face. He returns, wounds still visible, not hidden, not erased, but glorified. The scars are there as proof. Yes, you stabbed me. Yes, you denied me. Yes, you turned your face, but I still came back. He doesn't come back with condemnation in his eyes. He comes back with fire and tears and hope. He comes back carrying the same message he carried the first time. You are still loved. You are still chosen. You are still called. He comes back because your failure didn't cancel his faithfulness. He comes back because even when you gave up on yourself, he never did. He returns to the broken table, to the scattered pieces, to the silence after the shouting, and he sets the table again. He speaks again. He offers again. He says, I still want you. He says, I still believe in the story I wrote over your life. He says, I saw the moment you broke, and I came running, not away, but toward. The guest returns not just to visit, but to dwell, to make his home in the very heart that once shut him out. Because this is not about a one-time encounter, it's about a relentless pursuit. You may have stabbed him, ignored him, mocked him, buried his voice beneath distractions and delay, but he is not finished, he is not fragile, he is not going anywhere. He comes back stronger than before. Not because he changed, but because you're finally ready to see him for who he really is. And this time, maybe the response will be different. Maybe this time you open the door. Maybe this time you fall to your knees. Maybe this time you say, I'm done running. And when you do, when the door swings wide, when the silence breaks, when the light floods in, you will realize something powerful, that the guest who returned was never just a guest. He was always the king, and the day he returned was the day your life began. Are you ready to welcome him in? So I leave you with this. The guest is at the door. He is knocking, not to condemn, but to call you higher. He is speaking, not to shame, but to summon greatness within you. The only question that remains, will you stab him, or will you stand with him? The choice is yours.